Hello, today we are going to learn the Perl programming language, the version 5. So let's look what Perl is. So it's a programming language, kind of like a superset of shell, scripting, bash, influenced by awk, C++. Yeah, it uses semicolons, uses curly brackets, plenty of functional style. Resembles a bit the Unix shell, has doc strings which are similar to man pages in Unix. Okay. Practical extraction and reporting language. Not officially an acronym. Larry Wall, 1987. Okay, so we're not talking about the other programming language, which is Perl 6, Raku. We're talking about Perl 5. Okay, how does this thing look like? We're on Kubuntu 22.10. We have Perl pre-installed because it's used by many source packages in order to build, as for instance some code generator tool or part of the /configure step. How do we invoke Perl? Version 5 34.0. Okay. So we have Perl installed, Perl base, but also many. Okay. So these are Perl modules which live in cpan. Where is cpan? cpan is the comprehensive Perl archive network, so similar to npm for Node.js or crates for Rust, etc. A repository with many Perl modules, extensions, packages. Over 250,000 software modules written in the Perl programming language. Okay, so some of these packages are packaged by your Linux distribution into hundreds of packages. So hundreds of deb packages exist in Debian, Ubuntu, and derived distributions for modules which extend Perl. 8 ton. Okay. How do we start the interactive evaluate? The REPL, read evaluate print loop. I know. So it can run one command line. I don't know. I thought there was a REPL for Perl. Just a second. Okay, so doesn't seem to be a built-in REPL inside of the Perl executable or Perl distribution. There's devel REPL. You can do something with Perl minus -d1. There's Perl I, etc. Okay, let's ignore these things. So again, the Perl programming language. The current release 5.36. Extensions for the source code file, PL or PM. This is probably a module, this is probably a driver main Perl file. Okay, the official website perl.org. We have books. Oh. Okay, so now that we know about the Perl programming language, it's installed on my machine. The next thing to do is to get a really good IDE. We need a debugger. We don't really understand I don't know Perl. We don't understand the language, so we need to be able to inspect everything while we run under the debugger. So for that, on Google, I search for best Perl IDE. Let's read some pages from here. Okay, it says Padre. Most recommended for most people. Not under current active development. I see the year 2016. I see Ubuntu 10, I see February 2012. Okay, let's not go there. And then there's Komodo IDE. What is Komodo IDE? Is this thing based on Mozilla Firefox engine? Does it do debugging? We'll see. Okay. How do I download? I know. This download button. Okay, says that we need to create an account. All the features that we need for web and mobile development, which doesn't mean much. Download the installer for our operating system, which means Linux 64-bit. This thing. It will download. Let's download into this directory. And sign up for emails, no. Okay, let's see what is next. So we have the tar.gz download. Let's extract this first. It's a gzip, so X for extract, gzip, verbose, or okay. Let's look inside. There's an install directory, and then there's a support and an install script. Okay, what does it do? It says I have two options if I want full GUI, graphical user interface, for the installer wizard, or I could go -H. Okay, let's go -H. So that's, is this an executable? Yeah, it's executable. So /install -H. It says it can go -H for help. We don't want that. Can go verbose, yes. install directory and suppress shortcut. Do not create any desktop shortcut. Okay, let's go this way. So I want verbose. I want no desktop shortcuts. And I want to specify the install directory. So this, I guess, does not want to be installed in /usr/local. So it wants to be installed in /opt, but I'm going to install it in my home directory. So for that I have tilde/opt, and then I've already did this thing, so let's not override existing installation. Okay. So install -v -s -i tilde/.opt/ and let's name this thing Komodo IDE. Okay. Now it says that it did not install the desktop shortcut. I don't use such a thing, so okay. And I can still start the application either by manually clicking on where are you? Bin Komodo, this thing, which is fine for me. Or I might create a symlink. Let's create a symlink. So I'm going to symlink it to my home directory, which is tilde/.local bin. Okay. What else is tilde/.local/bin in path? I don't know. Echo $path. So it's in path. Ctrl+Shift+T. Echo $path. And even more than that, I see it has prepended itself to the path. Okay, so what we're looking for is this one, tilde/.local/bin. Okay, so now we can start it from the command line. So it's Komodo like this. So I've already installed it and it remembers my settings, but it will require that you use your user account in active state. So you should have a user account, and so a user account which is an email address and then a password. So you need to go sign up, create your user account, and then provide that because Komodo IDE will keep asking for a user and password and not continue further. Okay. How do we go from here? So there's a tour. Where is it? First start wizard again. Okay, let's see this thing. So after you enter your Komodo active state account, it asks you if you like the default color scheme. I said yes. Then I tried to survive without native window borders. I couldn't, because I like to, for instance, maximize or move the window by dragging it by the window title bar. Okay. The code minimap was too large, too wide, not that useful for now, so I've uncommented. So this was checked by default, I unchecked it. This was unchecked by default, I checked it. And then I tried to use the default key bindings. I didn't know what key bindings are for the debugger run, step into, step out, etc. They were totally strange, different from the ones from the other IDEs that I use. So I use Visual Studio Code, and Qt Creator. So I didn't want to learn a totally new scheme, so I went with Visual Studio Code. But then F11, which is step into, was bound to full screen. So I needed to undo the key binding for full screen to not be F11 and to create a binding for debugger step into to be F11. So it asked me what do I want the new color scheme, the new key binding to be named, and I went with whatever was there, which was Visual Studio Code, and then my username. Okay, next. Indentation, I don't know what indentation I want, but I want to program for the KD Git repository kdesrc-build. So this thing, what does it use for indentation? It uses 4 spaces. So I'm going to keep indentation with 4 spaces, not prefer tabs over spaces. I don't know what these settings are. Analytics, I kept it enabled. Next. So this is a multi-programming language IDE, not just Perl, but also Python, etc. I only use it for Perl. I go next. And it says start the getting started tutorial when I finish this wizard. I go finish. Okay. And it says there's a main toolbar, which is this thing. View toolbars, show toolbars, which is a view. In order to show the main menu, similar to Firefox, you need to press the Alt key on the keyboard, or right click in here on the main toolbar and go show menu bar. Okay, I like to have the main menu available at all times. I do not like toolbars. So, okay. So view toolbars, show toolbars, view toolbars, this thing show toolbars, which is also available if you right click on the toolbar or if you right click on the main menu. Okay. Ensure the side toolbar is enabled. View toolbars, show side toolbar, view toolbars, show side toolbar, this thing. Okay, next. Okay, there's this group of buttons in the main toolbar, which says that it can hide and show other things that the main view. So this bottom bar, I can hide it by clicking on show hide bottom pane. The show hide left pane, which is used for navigating in my case, and show hide the right pane, which is used for help and for navigating the symbols in the file. So I hide this, and there's the button toggle focus mode, which gives more screen real estate for the page, for the source code file that you're actually editing. View toggle focus mode, okay. Next, I see focus mode, so view toggle focus mode. I don't want to customize the toolbar. changing preferences, so that's in edit preferences, there's search. So the first things that I set is rep, which is where? So I unchecked use minimap scroll bar. I don't see where the settings for line wrapping are. I see, okay, cancel, next. Continue anyway. Okay. So I know how to change preferences. Next. Creating a project. So you go projects, which is the left sidebar, then projects, then new project, this thing. Next. Change the project base directory. Click OK to save the changes. Project preferences. Create a new file. Save the file. This is the go to anything bar. The omni bar. Okay. Next. Right-clicking on the tab, select file preferences. Okay. So I did not use any projects. I just went and opened the file. Okay, let's create our first file and edit that. But we don't know the Perl programming language, so we need a tutorial. Perl tutorial. Okay. Let's see what this thing does. So programming language developed by Larry Wall is cross-platform, artistic license or GNU GPL. This tutorial is extremely old. I'm not sure if it's up to date, so it says 5.16.2, which is how many versions behind? More than 15 versions behind. Okay. Takes the best features from other languages such as C, Awk, Sed, SH. Can do database, can do XML, HTML, JSON, etc. Does Unicode, can use Swig to access external C++ libraries. Okay, you can embed the Perl interpreter in your application. Hello world. So let's do that. How do we do that? Create a file in here. Let's delete these two files. Shift F4, A dot EL. Okay. Let's open the file. How do we do that? This thing. Work. This thing. Make this folder root. So I right click on the directory where the Perl file exists and I say make this folder root. Okay. I double click on a.pl and let's see how easy is it. Keep a trailing new line, Control S. Let's put a breakpoint in here and start the debugger. We don't have any debuggers. Why not? Let's stop the debugging. Why? With this icon? I know. It won't say. You know, let me reopen the thing. Okay, I guess it wants this file to be executable. I don't know. Let's do something. No. Still shows this interesting icon. I know. Okay, so let's start the debugger. We need to edit the toolbar. Main toolbar left, right, side toolbar. How do I hide this thing? This thing. Okay, and this thing. Save new file, something, that thing. Okay. How do we save this thing? Done. Okay. Can't we make this smaller? Yeah, like this, okay. We don't need the left bar. Okay, so let's run with the debugger. Whenever I start the debugger, I need to be in the correct file, so the entry point a.pl in my case. If I'm in another Perl file, it will start from that Perl file, which I don't want. I always want to start from the same file. So I need first to select this tab with the file, which is the correct entry point, and then I go start or continue debugging. And it always asks me if I want to give additional parameters, which I don't. Start in this directory. I know. I don't actually change anything, I just press OK each time I start the debugging. Okay, now we're inside of the debugger. In here we have the call stack, which is line 4 in main. This db thing, I do not know what it is. We have the output, which is the std out. We have watch, locals, globals. In globals we have $0, which is the name of the script. This is probably the list of environment variables. This is the list of included Perl files, so .pm or .pl or something files. Some come from tilde/.op/komodo id. Others come from /usr/lib. So there's a Perl base and Perl and then the version. Okay. And then there's the array inc. So arrays are with @ and hashes are with %, and these are include directories, I'm guessing, where to search for files that I include in my Perl file. Sig. These look like signals that you can send with kill executable in Unix. And then this is the list of all of the parameters of the current function, which the current function is nothing. Okay. Arguments and special. This is, I don't know, the PID or something. $0. This might be the exit status, similar to what's available in Bourne shell. Okay. Let's go next. So it says the duct tape of the internet. There's mod Perl for Apache, DBI for databases. So I do have prior exposure to C programming. I'm a C++ developer and Unix shell, yes. The same text that we've already seen. Perl is interpreted. It says it's interpreted, but it also does a bit of JIT. There's no compilation step. You just edit the file and then you immediately run it on all platforms, cross-platform. There's no compilation step, which creates a non-portable binary. When you run a Perl program, it's first compiled into a byte code, which is then converted as the program runs into machine instructions. So these are implementation details of the Perl executable engine. So we don't really know what the Perl engine really does, if it does JIT or not. Okay. Similar to Python. Okay, next. It runs on all of the possible operating systems. I believe it does because most of the operating systems around can run GCC, and probably Perl is a prerequisite of GCC, the C and C++ compiler. GNU compiler collection. Okay, I can go Perl -v. I went that Perl -v or Perl minus version. It's already installed on my machine. I've installed it from Ubuntu packages, so apt space install Perl. There's also Perl base. So Perl apt install Perl. Okay, or you can download the source code release archive. You unzip it, you change it to it, then you configure, make test, make install. Again, this tutorial is at least 10 years old, so these things might have changed. For Windows, there is Strawberry Perl. Okay. How do we run Perl? Perl -e and then some code. Perl -d runs the program under debugger. -i the $inc, the list of directories where it searches, so similar to the Java path. I don't know what dating is. Warnings, disable warnings, run Perl. Script, run a file. So you can go Perl and then the name of the file, or Perl -e and then contents of a Perl file. Then we have the ID available, which is called active state Komodo ID 12. Okay, next. My first Perl program. Let's see how this works. Control L to clean the console, paste. Okay. Or we can have a file which we can make executable and then we just run. Let's see that thing. So Perl a.pl. Let's do the chmod tense, not needed, but let's do it. a.pl ls-la, so it has the x bit set. It's executable. It knows bash how to autocomplete. It only searches for the files which have the x executable bit set. So I can press tab. Even if there's a similar renamed file which is called a.txt, that thing is not executable, so it doesn't offer that autocompletion. Okay, we can have parentheses or not. So we can omit parentheses. Control X works correctly, Control S, because I've selected Visual Studio Code key bindings, which is this key bindings, and then you select your preferred key binding scheme. Again, I needed to select VS Code, and then to make F11 work, I went where are you? Commands, full screen. This thing, user interface full screen, it had the current key sequence F11. So I did clear on that and apply. And then for debugger step into this thing, I didn't have any key sequence, so I put F11 as the new key sequence. I went add, and then immediately it asked me to name the key binding scheme because it wasn't VS Code as shipped by ActiveState Commodore ID. It was something new. So I named it VS Code and then underscore my name. Okay. So when you call a function, you can put its function arguments, parameters either wrapped in round parentheses or not. You can omit the round parentheses. There's a semicolon at the end of the statement. So let's go stop the debugger and start the debugger. Okay. So what is print? I don't know how to inspect this print thing. Go to definition, doesn't work. In Python, I could see the documentation for print, which is, I don't know how to do it in Perl. So there was a statement I can use, so I can inject a interactive shell, Python Perl shell inside of this running process. That's done with debug and then inspect. So it says inspect, probe the running application in a debugger shell. I go inspect. It creates a special shell, which is this one, the debug one, where I can do things. I know. And go my $a equals 11. Then I start the debugger. I inspect, and then I can do good things like print $a, and it says 11. So this current process executable does two things. It interprets these lines one by one, and it listens to whatever commands I give it into the debugger shell. Including I can change values of the variables and make it 12. And then I can print A again. Now it's 12. So for instance, I can put the print instruction in here, Control S, stop, start debugging, OK, inject, inspect, and now I'm changing the value of $A to hello, and it will print the value that I have changed, not the value that exists in the source code. Okay, so I go F10, not F10. How do I go next? The debugger. I need to stop the inspection debugger shell to be able to go step over F10. So I go F10, F10, and now it has printed hello. So with that we can see that any running Perl program at runtime, we can poke inside of it and change the values of variables. And we can also see that variables are weak typed, and the same variable can be numeric, so integer for a while, and then it becomes string in here of type string, similar to Python. Okay. Perl file extension, so must be PL, lowercase. I can use underscore in the name of files. File names can contain letters, numbers, and some symbols. Should not contain a space. So files should never contain space. We're programmers, so those spaces in file names are a real big problem. Commands with hash. So we can have a line that starts with a hash, it's a comment, or at some point the line becomes comment. You can have parts of a line, the right hand side of a line to be a comment. So comment starts with a hash and ends with a end line symbol. Okay. Then there's docstrings, which are called pod. This thing, so it begins with a equals and ends with the equal cut. Embedded documentation pod. Okay, I don't know any examples, so for that I'm downloading the KD Git repository, kdesrc-build, this thing. F2. Okay. Clone with HTTPS, copy. Git clone, Ctrl-Shift-V. Okay. So it's called kdesrc-build. It has this history. We're on branch master. Okay, let's open this with Visual Studio Code. That's the tool that I use for grepping. And I want to grep for this equals cut thing. Okay. So see how it works. So it ends with an equal cut, starts with an equal pod. This thing is comment, so useless to Perl, but part of generated documentation probably. The syntax is really similar to man pages. Let's look at the man page. Come on. So there's a name section, There's a synopsis section, There's a options section. Where are you? Examples section. Okay, so really similar to the syntax of man pages. So it ends with equals cut, starts with equal. Okay. Let's have this thing. Control V. Start. Okay. So it wrote hello world. This is shown by the IDE as collapsible. Perl programs do not care about white space. You can have a ton of white space here. You can even have tab characters. Okay. And there's two ways of having new lines, which is you put \n when the string is enclosed in double quotes. If spaces exist inside of the quoted strings, they will be printed as is. So for instance, we can go new line and all of these new line characters will be printed out. Control S, run, okay. So it has printed all of the new line characters. And then it has printed this new line character, which is this one. Okay. Control C, Control V, Control S, run. Okay, so there's a new line in here, which is this one. There's a new line in here, which is this one. And then there's a ton of space characters, which are these ones. Okay. Single or double quotes in Perl. Let's see what this thing is. Control V, Control S, run. So \n is is interpreted while inside of double quotes strings, double quoted strings. So \n is replaced with a actual new line character, and probably \t with a tab, etc. And whereas whatever string you enclose in single quotes will not be changed. So \n will remain a \n, will not be replaced with a new line character. Only double quotes interpolate variables and special characters such as \n, whereas single quotes do not interpolate any variable or special character. So let's look at interpolation. So this $A is special, is highlighted by the IDE, will be replaced with its value, which is 10. So it will be printed value of A space equals space 10 and then a new line. Whereas if it's enclosed in single quotes, the string will not be changed, so this will be printed as $A and this will be printed as \n. Control S, run, Control Shift D. Okay. So again, in here $A was replaced with 10, and then a new line was put instead of the \n, which is this new line. Whereas the second line was printed as is, so $A remained like that, \n remained like that, and there's no trailing new line in here. There's no third line in the standard output. Here documents, multi-line text. Okay, let's see what that thing is. Copy. Control V, Control S. Okay, so here strings. In shell bash there is a similar thing with less than EOF. Let's see. This is the syntax for here document, and it will continue until, so after continue there's a new line, we can see it in here, AOF in the first line. So in the first line, at the beginning of the line, something. This is case of double quotes, so variable value will be interpolated. It's strange that this part is not wrapped in double quotes. Just the beginning is wrapped with a double quote, and there's a semicolon here and not here. But if that's the syntax, then that's what it is. Control S. So $A was not interpolated because the EOF string is wrapped in single quotes. So this is here docs, but within single quotes. Okay, so escaping characters, \n, \double quote if the string is encapsulated in double quotes, you need to escape double quotes. If you don't want $result to be interpolated, you can go \result to write $result. Okay, Perl identifiers. Identify variables, function, classes, modules, other objects. Start with either a $, or %, followed by 0 or more letters, underscores, and digits. So letters, underscores, and digits. Sounds familiar. You can't have $, %, within the interior of the identifier. Case sensitive, very well. Manpower. A Perl variable name starts with either one of these three special characters: $, %, Loosely typed, no need to specify type for data. Perl interpreter will choose the type based on the context of the data itself. 3 basic data types: scalar, array, and hash. So hash, $, array, @, scalar, $. Hashes are associative arrays, maps, dictionaries, objects in JSON, etc. The name is hash in Perl. Arrays, in other programming languages, are named vector, list, etc. So this is the array. And scalar could be a string or a number or a reference. A reference is an address of a variable. So all scalars are identifiers, start with $. The array identifiers start with @, and the hash identifiers start with %. literals, numeric, signed integers or double precision floating point values. Internally, we don't really know what the Perl engine really does. Numeric literals, so could have a decimal dot, could use E notation, could use hexadecimal, 0x, octal 0 something, minus, negative, string literals enveloped in single or double quotes, double quoted allow variable interpolation, single quoted not, special characters, \n, \t, \/ the way to escape a \/ single quote. We don't use alert, backspace, form feed, carry return, vertical tab. Okay. String interpolation, \n. Okay. Double U will become uppercase, \u. What's that? Forces the following characters to be uppercase or lowercase. Forces the next character to be uppercase or lowercase. Interesting. Okay. So a hash is a pair of keys and values. So an array with key, value, key, value, key, value. Arrays contain many slots and they're accessed by index. Ordered list of scalars. Okay. Assignment with equal sign. There's a use strict statement. So similar statements exist also in Visual Basic for applications. To the left of assignment equals operator, there's a variable name. And to the right, there's the value. Okay. So we assign a string, we assign an int, we assign a float. All three scalars, so the variable's identifier starts with a $sign. Okay. Okay. Array variables start with an @sign. $sign and then the index of the element in square brackets. Let's look at this example. Control V, Control S, start it. Okay, let's have a breakpoint in here. So what is ages? Ages is array, so uppercase array. Starts with @sign, has three elements. Index is 0, 1, 2. So indexing in arrays starts at position 0. with the values 25, 30, and 40, which are scalars, which are numeric, which are signed int. Okay. And the other one, at names, is also an array, uppercase array. 3 slots, 0 is the string John Paul. The second, so index 1 is string Lisa, and string Kumar on position 3, which is index 2. Okay, and then we go ages. Where are you? Ages, which is actually a array, but then you go ages of 0, so that thing is actually a scalar. So you need to have $sign. Okay, let's go F10. Step next. So it escapes this $sign not to be interpolated, so \$. Okay, so this is an array, but then this being the value in the array of at the third position, index 2, is a scalar. Okay, let's look at the debugger a bit. So the debugger's locals tells you which variables are in the current scope. So there's ages and names, they are type array. You can expand them in order to inspect. Globals are $0, which is the name of the file, and environment variables, inc the included files, inc the included directories. So the included directories is in fact an array which just contains strings, whereas %inc is a hash which contains pairs. So pair is the name of the file and then the full path of the file. The name of the file, full path of the file, name of the file, full path of the file. So these are the keys. cwd.pm is a key, and the value is /usr/lib etc. /cwd.pm, the full path. Okay, that's why env is also a hash, because it's also an array of pairs. So display is :1, home is /home/n-p, lang is n_us.utf-8. Okay, that's why it's a %sign env, because it's a hash. Signals array, this is the list of parameters that are received in the current function. Ages and names are global variables, because we have defined them outside of any function. Okay, and we can always add them to watch if we want. We can go $ages of 1, and it says 30. Right click, debug, add to watch. Okay, Control A, how do we empty these things? Delete. Okay, and then hashes. Interesting assignment. It's just like the assignment of an array, but events are values of keys and odds are values of value. What did I do? Control S. Let's run this thing. Okay, so it says data John Paul and then $ data and then in curly brackets the value of the key, which is a string, which is 45. So key value, key value, key value. So 3 pairs, 1 pair, second pair, third pair. $ data of John Paul, of Lisa, and of Kumar. Okay. We can hover on it, on the variable, on the identifier, and it shows a part of the representation. So if it's too long, the tooltip will not contain the entire representation. There will be 3 dots. Okay, but we can always inspect it inside of the locals view. So we go %data, John Paul 45, Kumar 40, Lisa 30. And it's interesting that this is defined as string within single quotes, but in here it's shown as string in double quotes. And this is defined as string in single quotes, and this is a string without any quotes. And it allows me to change values. So I can change the value of Kumar from 40 to 99. Okay. And when we execute this thing, it will say Kumar 99. Yes, it did. So I can live edit the values inside of the variables. So when you assign an array to another array, it does a deep copy probably. If you assign an array to a scalar, it returns it assigns an integer number of elements, I'm guessing. So it evaluates the right-hand side in a scalar context. Evaluates the right-hand side as a list context. Okay, so we've read enough from the tutorial. Let's now do the kdesrc. KD Git repository. Let's look into it. Let's see how it works, and let's try to fix things there. Okay, so I go. I really like that group of buttons where we can hide the left-hand toolbar or not. This thing. Okay. So I go my user, then where I git cloned the repository, so kdesrc-build, this thing, right click on it, make this folder root, I don't know what is going to ask me. I go start. I see the progress in the omnibar. Okay, the entry point is this file, kdesrc-build. This is a Python script. It starts with a Python shebang. It's executable, so it has the chmod x bit set. Okay, let's put a breakpoint somewhere. It says use strict in here, and let's run the command line. So let's see how that thing works. kdesrc build, then the name of a module. This thing. Ctrl C, too much work. And then cease. Okay, so what it does, it's a framework that can download KD Git repositories from the KD project. We said it should do so for the KD Git repository kpath. Then I say don't actually git clone it, use whatever files there already exist, because I git cloned it previously. And then this KD Git repository kpath depends on sysadmin repo metadata, extracts image modules, kcore add-ons, international car config, 78 KD Git repositories. I say don't build those, so no include dependencies. It tries to build just kpath. It does three things, so configure, make, install. The configure step has failed because cmake failed because of this error, which is that libfree solver, the development, the package is not installed from Ubuntu 22.10. Okay, so let's run this thing in the debugger and see that indeed this is the entry point. This is the main function, as it were. Okay, so for that I'm on the correct Python file. So I can start it in the debugger. I go start or continue debugging. It asks, do you want to start this file? And I say yes. Then which directory? The directory where the file exists. Some arguments. Let's go with exactly the same. So this part, the rest of the command line, excluding the name of the Perl file. So the name of the Perl file is in here. Then the rest of the command line parameters, which are these. Okay, I go OK. So indeed, it stops on this line. Let's go F10. F10, so it could have executed this begin thing, but I saw that the debugger stepped over this. Not sure why. The debugger also stepped over use KSB, which is this script. Perl script says I want to use this Perl module. Then we get that eval, which says if this thing $sign underscore, which is what? No. $sign underscore. There's no such thing as an there's an @sign underscore, which is the array with the parameters. Where are you? Okay, I don't know what this thing is, but then it goes equals initial setup. What is argv? Argv is the command line parameters tokenized as an array. I don't know what grep does. Probably a Perl keyword. So I'm guessing it steps through all of this array until it finds one of the elements in this array to be string and to be equal to this string. And then $sign underscore is the current item in this array. Okay, not the case, so I didn't run kdesrc-build space minus initial setup. Okay, $at, what is that thing? No. $sign is a scalar, and at what is it? No. So require probably adds more, includes more modules, makes more per modules available in kdesrc-build Perl file. Let's look at the core stack. So the core stack says that we're in the main script outside of any function. Then we're inside of eval, which I don't know what it is. Sounds like it allows to evaluate the string. And then it says we're online, require ksb debug.pm, which is this thing. Okay. So line 118, which is then inside of another file which is called debug.pm. So in the subdirectory, so the directory of this kd git repository is tilde/kd/src/kdesrc-build, and then from then there's a relative path towards the debug pm file. So modules ksb debug.pm, and we're in there. What did it do? It has the keyword package, the name of the package, the version of the package. It uses other packages. It uses the exporter packages import method. I don't know what this is. Looks like an enum. Scalar file handle. I know. Is pretending integer 0, which is probably a boolean. Debug level info, which info was defined as 2 in this enum. Okay. IPC. I don't know. Colors. Red, green, yellow, normal. For something times 6. What's IPC? Not initialized. What's red? okay, require KSB util F11 to step into. So we can step into using F11, so debug, step in F11, step over F10, and step out Shift F8 instead of Shift F11. Okay. Let's go step out. Step out. So we need to get back to eval. Doesn't go back up on the core stack. I don't know why, what it does. Let's stop. Start, and now it shows a totally alien debugging options dialog, because we already have the script arguments, this command line part. So this time is empty. Why? Because we're starting the debugger using util.pm, which we should never do. And it says that the script name is module/ksb/utils.pm. So we totally don't want to start the debugger here. We want to start the debugger always in kdesrc-build. So first you select the correct tab, which is kdesrc-build, and then you go start. It remembers the last settings, and you go OK. Okay. So it entered inside of debug.pm, even if I did not want it, because I pressed F10. So this file kdesrc-build sets up the world, imports a ton of Perl modules, parses the command line, calls the correct objects, etc. So it builds objects and calls them. KSB application new, this thing. And then the main part, the main method of the KD Git repository would be probably this one, KSB application run all module phases. Okay, so let's look at how parameters are passed in Perl. So we're on this line. It says $up, which is a object, and then calls a function, which is a method of this object. And inside we see that it goes shift, which is similar to Windows batch files and shell scripting, where shift means take from the list of parameters of this subalgorithm, function, procedure, whatever it's called, the first one, put it somewhere in here, and then when we go shift again, it will give us the second argument of this in the list of arguments to this subalgorithm. So it pops the first submodule parameter from the list of submodule parameters. Okay, so it takes the value self, because this function is called with just one parameter, which is $up. This is self, or this in other programming languages. Okay. So it's taken from the list of parameters, the self, using shift. So now the local variable $self actually contains the instance of the class of this method, of this object method. Okay, so let's look at self. It has a type. It's not array, it's not scalar, it's not hash, but it's KSB namespace, colon application. So we see that Perl has types, has classes, has namespaces, has methods, has this, which is self, which you access like this. In any method of an object, you go shift and it returns $sign self. Okay. So self is actually the application which contains the most important object in this entire application, kdesrc-build, which is called ctx ksb : build context. Array of modules. Workload, which is a hash. Okay. And then the first thing that it does, because the context object of this is so important, it actually accesses. So it goes self, get me the context. So let's go F11 to see what there is. So context is actually an accessor, which is a method, which, so you go self, and then you access its, you call its method named context. So that method does shift to get access to this, goes self, and then it accesses this thing, which is the context, which is a member variable, private data or something. Store field. Okay, so there's more fields. Context, metadata module, run mode modules, workload, and all of these have read-only accessors. Okay, so getter methods. We have the context, we get the modules, so we need to make sure that we keep, if modules is an array, the variable needs to be an array also. We don't want to get the count of modules. F10, F11, so it says $self, get me the modules, but get them as array. So again, don't get the count of the modules if I go $. So keep this being an array, and then return this as an array. Okay, F10. So run all module phases, gets self, gets context, gets list of modules, context, get option, print modules. So I'm guessing this is a command line parameter. F11. Get option of $self, $key level module. How do I do that? So $key is a string print modules. $self is actually the build context. And then a default, the last parameter is default value level, the value string module. Okay, so $level is a scalar with the value of the string module. $key is the string print modules. $self is kdesrc-build context. So this is probably a way to get access to self faster. So we say the name of a object minus greater than the name of a method, and we destructure whatever its name. We populate the parameters directly in the signature of the method. So we put in the local variable $self this, and $key the first parameter, and then there's default parameters. So we can call this method with just one parameter, which is key, but you call it object minus greater than get option, so that object becomes the value of the scalar self, $self. So no need to go my $self equals shift if you put this part in the signature of the function. But a ton of functions and methods in here don't have any signatures. Instead, they have a documentation where it says this is a function that can take this many parameters, and this is what each parameter does. Option space get option key. Okay. Context modules. So modules is self module, so application modules, and that gets added. So this is a array. We loop using a for each into it. The current item in the array is put into this array. F11. So the add module method. This is the way to destructure the list of parameters. So underscore at underscore is a array of the array of method parameters. The first one is always self, so you destructure it like this. So you go array my, and then capture $self, and then assign the value to another local variable, which is $module. Okay. So there's a $_ of 0 and of 1, which are scalars, but both form the array at underscore, which is this one. Can expand like this. So the first one is kdesrc-build context, and the second item is kdesrc modules. In Perl, arrays don't need to have all of the values inside of the array do not have to have the same type. So you can have in an array, on the first position you can have a string, then on the second position an integer, etc. There's unless module, which if this is nil, it will, I don't know, throw or something. You can exit unless something, so return early. All sorts of syntax at the end of a sentence. You would expect this to be a sentence, and you end it with a semicolon, but no, the sentence does not end. There's a space, and then there's unless something, or for each something, or other things, ifs, etc. Okay. I totally do not know the syntax. Add module, push, and then you tell it on to which array and which value. Push array value. Okay, this is the regular expression matcher. This is string equality. So whatever this method returns is compared if it's equal to this string scalar literal. Okay, this is the and Boolean operator similar to Java and C# and C++ and C. This is a function that accepts more than one parameter. It concatenates those strings. Sub, this smells like a sub, so the definition of a function. Any smells like C# linq. Okay, so it has added all of the modules in the context. It runs a module. If it should query, then I don't know. So this is the main function, so it's pretty large. This is the way you concatenate arrays. So you can go join square round parentheses, then the string comma, then a comma, and then a array. So it will have the first value in the array, then comma, then space, then the second value in the array, then comma, and space, etc. Next, unless. So this is, I'm going to guess, continue. So if MSGs is not valid, it's not going to do any warning. Or not. So do continue if this is wrong, or do continue if this is not wrong. These are stdout terminal emulator color codes. So green, blue, brown, red, color. Okay, so this is in fact this thing. So the set face, this thing, with color red and bold. No, this thing RB. Let's put a breakpoint in here and see. So run. At the output, we can see that everything was written to the standard output, so all of these things. And now it's preparing to write, including this new line. So it's preparing to write a new line, and then the set face, and then your logs are saved in file. Okay. So $sign result is 1. which means what? So $sign is red bold. The color. The $sign result is 1, which is the boolean for success. If it's different than 0, then it's success, so it writes this thing. So result means failure. If the result is true, then it's failure. Interesting. And reverse at the same time. Okay, so info is the function that will actually write to stdout, to the terminal emulator. Let's see how that works. F11. Whoa, we're way deep. So inside info and inside print CLR, colorize, and then end the colorization. There's color themes. Let's look at the output. So it wrote the set face with my theme. So it wrote with a symbolic red, not the actual red color, but depending on the theme of the terminal, could be something else instead of red. In this case, because I'm using active state Commodore ID as the terminal emulator and it's in dark mode, it uses blue instead of red. Then a new line, and then it's going to write your logs are saved in file. Return to previous Perl profile. So kdesrc-build tries to build a ton of kdgit repositories. So before doing all of that, it puts my power profile to one which can use more CPU, more power, a power profile that's for performance, not for energy consumption. Okay, so now it computes the name of the file, so this thing to be printed. Global logs base, which is the log directory, so until here. And then it needs this datetime timestamp. Okay, and it's going to write your logs are saved in file : this thing, and then it switches colors to orange, this yellow thing. So it goes yellow, open square bracket and close square bracket, and whatever is this string, which is interpolated, is going to be yellow, and then the yellow color will end, and it will return to the previous color, so to the color background foreground color that was used to print the double slashes, this thing. Okay, including the new line. And then that's it. It needs to return the exit status, which is 1. 0 is success, so 1 is not success. So while and each is a sort of for each. And then this is all an instruction which says note, so write something to the terminal, but only if this condition, this Boolean condition happens. So this method function will not be called if this Boolean condition is false. Okay, exit code is 1, so it will return that thing. And that's it. The debugger has stopped. We can see that because the stop debugging button is disabled now. The only button enabled in the debug buttons group in the main toolbar is the start or continue debugging. Okay, let's go to the packages fail to build part. So how do we get here? Control copy. How do we search? Control Shift F, Control V, find all. Nothing. So there's no string packages failed to build. Okay. What about packages failed to? No. Ignore case. How about we ignore case? Match case. Match case if such string contains capital letters. Ignore case. Packages failed. Yay. Output failed module list. So it says there's a docstring, so documentation for this function. It says this subalgorithm, this function is named like this. It's duplicated in here, so don't repeat yourself violation. And then it says, just by looking at the signature, you will not know what parameters it expects. So the parameters that it expects is these things, these three things. So a build context, a message to print, and a list of modules. So it destructures them like this, at underscore, puts them in 3 different local variables, and then return early if the type of the first local variable, the first parameter, is wrong. And then we have this message, which is does UC2. So let's put a breakpoint in here. First of all, let's see if it stops if I put a breakpoint on the open curly bracket. Again, I started the wrong file, application.pm, cancel. Let's close everything but this. The entry point, okay. I need a start breakpoint. Let me close the search tabs. I go F5 to continue. I don't need this breakpoint anymore. I need to click twice to not just disable the breakpoint, but also delete it. F5 to continue. And we're in the output failed module list function, which we guess does this part, not this part. Okay, let's look at the call stack. So run all modules, we know this function, we went inside of it, and in here is we write the final set phase, so this part. So probably this part is defined in here in output failed, and there's two functions. One is called output failed module lists, so with plural, and then output failed module list without a final s. So there's two ones: lists, this one, and list, this one. Okay, so this UC is an uppercase function. The message is not destructured yet. We're still on the line 1466. We need to go to line 1467 to have 3 local variables declared and with values assigned. We see that there's no reason to put breakpoints on the open curly bracket line because those will not be executed. So we need to put the breakpoint immediately after the open curly bracket line. Okay, F10. So now the 3 local variables have been defined. So there's ctx, fail list, and message. ctx is an object, complex one. Message is a string, fail to build, which is what the calling function, caller function sends. So it says fail to, and then phase meaning build, fail to build. So this string is this string. Okay, and fail to build is now this message. Okay, so since context is indeed a build context, it doesn't fail there. F11. Assert is a local function that destructures. There's 2 parameters, a object and its class. If the object is its class, it's okay. Otherwise, I don't know what this thing does. Probably a third-party library halts the execution or something. Okay, and it returns object if it's valid. Okay, and then $ message is lowercase, so the comment is be annoying, which is about internet etiquette, where all uppercase means shouting. So what UC is? So UC is a function which is called without parentheses, which is strange because some functions are called with parentheses, some functions are called with space and then parentheses, some other functions are called without parentheses. F11. It seems to be a keyword or something because I couldn't step into UC. There's a return early, so return unless fail list. So this list of fail modules should not be empty. The list of failed modules contains just one element, which is the module kpath. Name kpath. Okay, so this is not empty, it will not return early. Okay, then there's a debug message is and then message. F11. Debug prototype says it will be called this function only if log level is debug. So this is classic debug logs, where if the debug level is warning and you want to write a log level of type debug, that thing will not be written anywhere, which is exactly this case. So debug is where are you? Debug level is 2, and the debug is 0. So level is 2, debug is 0, 2 is not less than or equal to 0. So that's why it will not be written to standard output the string, which is message is. And then uppercase fail to build, and then this is a tab, and then 4, and then joins the list of the, so fail list is an array of KSB module, but in here it's converted to, it's iterated through using join, and there's a toString method invocation in here in order to generate a string. And the names of the fail modules are separated with colon space. Okay, so these two things actually are not executed. Then this variable is not needed. Then log file. Then this thing is actually written. So because it's of type warning, F11, it says warning. We don't know what the, we know the level of the line that we want to write. We don't know the global log level. So let's go F11. So it says that level, which is warning, is 4, and we're allowed to write any log lines which are of level 2, 3, 4, etc. So greater than or equal to 2. So debug level is 2, level is warning, which is 4, so 2 is less than or equal to 4, so this line will actually be written. Okay, what did it write? It wrote a new line, which is this string between lines 53 and 54. Then it wrote a R, which means red, which in my case is blue. Then it went bold, which in this terminal emulator does not work, but does work in console. And then it went less than, so this should have been red. You can see that in console it's actually red. And then 3 spaces, two spaces, and then uppercase packages, and then space, and then this message which is failed to build uppercase, then 2 spaces, then greater than 3 times, and then it ends the escape codes. So it's no longer bold, but it's still red. Okay. And then it iterates through the fail list and captures the current element in the local variable $sign module. So this is a for each in Perl. There's a method called getOption. So if we look at the locals module, and it has a thing which is called options, which is a hash, and we need to access this important pair of the hash, which has the name, the key hash error log file, and has the value this thing. So the log of the y key path failed to build. It failed to build because the CMake configure step failed, and this is the standard output of the CMake configure step. Okay, so it extracts the log file. Get option is an accessory method which receives 3 parameters. This key and then level limit, which level limit is optional because I don't know why. Could have the value allow inherit or module. Okay, let's ignore those. So context self is a module, and the module has a reference to, has a member of type context. The application has a member of type context. Again, the type context, the object context is the most important object in kdesrc-build. It's the bloodline of kdesrc-build, or the black port, or the database, or what do you want to call that thing? State. Okay, it gets the context. This is an operator. I know what this operator does, / equals. So level limit, I guess if it's empty, then it defaults to allow inherit or something. Okay. So level limit is now allow inherit because it was missing. Branch configure flags, TA, CXX flags, QW. I don't know what QW does. It's not a function. If list has. Okay. Where are we? Inside of get option. So it doesn't matter. It's a getter. It goes inside of the hash, which is called, where are you? Self is a module. It goes inside of the hash, which is called options, and then gets the correct pair. In our case, this pair. Okay. Let's see if we can step out. Shift F8. Yes. So log file is what we expect. The string with the full path to the error file. This is a fallback, which is probably never used, or not from what I have seen. So log file becomes clickable by putting file : / in front of the name of the file to make it a hyperlink in console and similar terminal emulators like this. I can control click on it. It opens with the default text editor the file. I can control click here, control click here, and also control click on URLs with more classic protocols such as HTTP, HTTPS. Okay, so this line will not be run because unless log file. So only if this is empty or nil or something will this be run, this assignment. So this is not run, whereas the next assignment is run. So log file is prepended this thing. And then warning, we know that warnings are always written. Goes red, then module closes the red if not pretending. So this line is not run. It's not if not pretending. So this line is run. So a red and then kpath closes the red, then space minus space, and then goes green, and then goes the full path, and then ends the green. So kpath in this terminal emulator instead of red is the default color, whereas in console is actually red. Okay, where are we now? in lists in the file with the function with an s at the end, which was the parent of the caller of the function without an s at the end, this thing. So we can make this function be called twice from this for. By having more KD Git repositories not be built correctly using kdesrc-build. Okay, so this is it. So now we know how to run kdesrc-build. We know how to run it in the best debugger, Perl debugger that I know of, which is the IDE Integrated Development Environment Active State Komodo IDE 12. We know how to investigate during debug all of the local variables, all of the global variables, the arguments to the current function. So the current function was called with just 2 arguments. We see shift twice, and there's $_0, which is the context key CTX, and then this module graph is actually a hash, which looks like this, the name of a module such as Qt5, and then inside there's another, the value is another hash with hashes, etc. So I don't see any defined types, any custom defined types, any user defined types. It's just the basic hash list, hash array, and undef, and arrays. Okay, whereas context is a user-defined type. It's a class named build context from the namespace KSB, which references itself. Funny. Which references a KSB module, which references a branch group resolver, etc. Okay, so we know how to step into any method. We know how to look at the code that writes this to the standard output. We know to look at the Perl source code that writes this. We looked at this. We looked at this. Okay. We can find the Perl source code that writes this by searching for this URL. Let's get even more. Control-Shift-C, Control-Shift-V, paste, go. Okay, so just once this URL, parts of this URL appear in the entire source code of kdesrc-build. To be extra sure, you open the Git repository kdesrc-build in Visual Studio Code and then also search there. So it's just one appearance in the same place. So at line 1549, this thing. Okay. I see that Visual Studio Code is not configured to wrap lines, so let's do that. How do we do that? I messed it up. Let's open it back. Help, show all commands, wrap line. I know. Edit preferences, settings, wrap. Okay, editor word wrap. I know, on. Debug console, word wrap. So this should be inherited, right? Okay, and I don't need to press any apply button or save because it auto saves. Let's open a large file. Yeah, so it did in here, auto wrapped. Okay, so you just put a breakpoint at the line where the URL https build kd search is written to the standard output to the terminal, and then you make sure that you close the debugger, stop the debugger, and start the debugger, but from the correct file, so not from application.pm, but from kdesrc-build. You go to this tab and you go start debugging. Okay. F5. I don't need this breakpoint anymore. F5. And now we're at this line, where this line is written. So again, I can see the name of the current function, which is underscore output failed module list, so with an and s. And it has the parameters arguments, which is $_1, which is a hash, and the build context. We have all of these globals. We have these specials. We should not have anything in watch, so let's delete this thing. Okay, and these are the most important variables, the local ones. Okay, so we can inspect CTX, which is this guy. We can inspect module graph, which is where? I don't know why it's not shown in local. Why is not module graph shown? I know, can we inspect it? Debug, add to watch. Yes, we can, but it's kind of empty or something. Okay. This is the way to declare and assign an array which is empty. This is the way to declare a object. An object? No, a hash. It's a hash actually. But then why didn't it put a like this? I don't know. I'm not sure I have seen the percent sign in this source code. So there's some places where this appears. Okay, now back to the debug tab, locals tab. Okay, so here it defines a local variable, scalar integer 5. In here it converts a array to a scalar by getting the count of elements in this array. So the built-in, or what's this thing called, scalar. We see a ton of mice. I don't know what my does. For each my, another way to do for each is I saw 3 ways of doing for each in 10 minutes. So there was a while and then something, and then for each my, and then for my. Maybe there's more. Yeah, and then the for each at the end of the statement, to make the start of the statement run more than once with the capture of the current element in the array. And then this is probably slicing, where this is an array could have 20 elements, but stop is defined as 5, so stop -1 means take all of the elements in this array, but just starting from index 0 through to index 4, which means take the 5 items in this array and it returns a new array, and then it does for each on top of that thing. So slicing, as in Python and newer versions of C++. Okay, assert is early return. This defines the captures the local creates local variables from the values that are passed as parameters to this function. Opens files, standard input, standard output, while not end of file of standard input, read line, regular expression, something similar to set awk, to set. This is probably exists, similar to bash and Bourne shell. This is, I don't know, if this fails, then return this. \t means a tab, R, and then square parenthesis means red. This means bold, so Unix terminal escape codes. Method call, function call, parameters 1. So in order to guess how many parameters a function has, you might look at the docstrings, but then docstrings can bitrot. We see a shift once, ctx, so it might be just one parameter. Again, this ctx database bloodline object is passed everywhere and available everywhere and modified everywhere. Okay, this is the opposite of join, split. This is accessing the environment variables. So it's %signed env. Which is which? So it's a hash containing all of the environment variables. If you want to access just one, you need to go, where are you? $env, curly brackets, and then the text in the of the key. So xdg config home, there's no such thing. So then it will OR, with OR is either this exists or you return this string. So environment home, does that thing exist? Should. Yes. Home is my tilde, so /home/n-p and then /.config. So this is a default value if this fails, getting this environment variable. Unless doesn't run this, similar to if or something. Chmod, Unix function. Shift once, just one parameter. Declares a hash and the second one. And with this hash, what does it do? It assigns it a list. So this is the way one of the ways to assign values to a map. Either these pairs of name, value, key, value, key, value, key, value, key, value, or could have not had anything in here, like this. From what I saw in the tutorial. Maybe I'm wrong. So that was it. That was me learning Perl. I did a tutorial. I installed the best IDE that I know of, and I'm looking at a really complicated Perl Git repository. kdesrc-build, and I have shown many of the possibilities in Perl, many of the syntax, a large part of the syntax of Perl, how to do global variables, how to do objects, classes, hashes. I saw a ton of types of doing for eaches. I saw arrays, converting arrays to scalars, looking at the proto of a object, how arguments are passed via functions, getter methods. Calling functions from the standard library such as join and chmod. Unix terminal escape codes, etc. So this is it. Thank you.